So, what's it like to go psychotic? What does it feel like to be psychotic? To think psychotic? I've been asked that, and I've thought about making a video about this for a while, but I haven't had the words. It's hard to explain. It's like explaining the flavor of orange juice. It's something you can really only know experientially, and it's hard when you're not having the experience to describe the experience, especially because the experience is an altered experience, like being under the influence of drugs. Trying to describe your thought patterns and your feeling sensations when you're not under it is difficult. Also, I'm only me. I can only speak for what my personal experiences feel like and have felt like. But I'm going to give it a go. So, have you ever heard this little story about boiling a frog in a pot of water? How you can put them in the pot and slowly turn up the heat, and they will sit in that pot and boil alive without hopping out if you turn up the heat incrementally. They're unaware of what's going on and they won't leap out of the pot. But if you just threw them in a pot of boiling water, they would hop out because it's hot. They know better. But if you do it slowly, they're oblivious. That's the way a psychotic episode creeps up on you. If I were at a place where I thought the apocalypse, I went to bed one night and everything was ordinary. Then I woke up in the morning and I was thinking the apocalypse had come and heaven and hell had split and there were demons walking around. That would be shocking and strange to me, and I would notice the difference, and I would be aware that something was wrong. Psychosis doesn't work that way. It's not day and night. That's why we can believe such bizarre things once it becomes evident to the outsider that the person is acting in such a bizarre way and has their behavior rooted in such bizarre beliefs, is because they started slowly, based on reality. And then that reality got twisted and distorted so slowly and subtly that people outside the person don't recognize that they're behaving or thinking any differently because it's just such a subtle shift. And that subtle shift grows until it becomes so grossly obvious that the person's rules and beliefs about reality are different because their behavior is so different, because you can't be running on a alternate script for what's happening than everyone else and be behaving according appropriately to the situation. So it crept in. I wasn't aware that I was getting psychotic. I wasn't aware. As the story slowly and slowly got more and more complicated and complex, it starts with, for me, symbols. I start to read things that aren't there, reading into things too much, literally reading words mixed up on a page so that they say something they didn't say, or taking them literally, that it's a literal direction to do something. Turn right on a street sign literally means, okay, turn right. It's specifically referencing me, and it's a directive. Or I will read too much into something. Turn right, again, as an example, means to turn right in your life. It's an omen to make better choices. And these things are based on logical leaps that we would in other circumstances do normally. We would read something that's directed at us and understand it, comprehend it. We would read something that's an inspirational quote or a suggestion to us and go, oh yeah, maybe I should make better choices in life. And so your brain is operating in a way that appears to you to be normal, doing normal things, making normal thought by thought connections to things, and we see patterns. We have pattern recognition. We notice all the squares in the room. We notice all the red shirts if we're looking for them in a crowd. When I become psychotic, I do pattern recognition with things. I will notice all the, I don't know, red shirts in a crowd. But because of something that I read previously, or some thought that I had, maybe that turn right means to turn right, just make better choices. And red is an inflammatory color, a danger warning color. And so everyone in the crowd that's wearing red, I'm to be warned of. If I turn right and see a person in red, then that red is danger, and I need to be worried about everyone wearing red because they're part of a group, and then that group is dangerous. I don't know why yet, but eventually I'll figure it out, because another thought or another coincidence will come together, and I'll put pieces of irrational and separated information that don't go together. Birds fly over at the same time a car pulls out in front of me with a license plate that says ID. And at the same time, there's a dog in the road. And a certain song is playing on the radio. And at some point in there, I've reached a point where there's already a storyline running. And this coincidence that is arbitrary happening isn't arbitrary to me. Somehow the birds and the dog relate to the song on the radio, and the ID and numeric code on the license plate is a directed message all coming together for a specific reason. And for me, my delusions ended up coming from faith in God, and so that made it more complicated. Even as things got more and more and more bizarre, I began to believe that my perceptions and delusions were directives from God. If they were directives from somebody, say the CIA or something, I would have probably thought that they were more ridiculous. But if you believe, which you do, because you don't, that's part of the sickness, is that you don't not believe your own thought. Just like if I told you that it's a good thing to brush your teeth, you'd believe it. If I told you gravity exists, you'd believe it because it's true. It's an ordinary thing. All this feels true and ordinary, as if any other thought. You don't realize because it's been cranked up so slowly, and your capacity to retain insight gets lost over time. So you begin not to be able to question that your reality isn't reality and that your thinking processes aren't working, the sicker that you get. So I would make all these associations, have all these inferences, make unrelated things relate to me and to this grandiose scheme, and it would be coming from God. And if you don't do what you're told or what you believe is your direction, and people might want to disagree with the CIA, but it's a little difficult to give the middle finger to God and say, I'm not going to do it. He's God. So that made it really difficult for me to disregard what my brain was telling me because I thought it was coming from God. And like I said, how did it feel? Well, it felt like any other day, any other thought, any other normal day as far as my thinking. My thinking didn't feel scattered for a very long time. I didn't recognize anything strange for a very long time, even as I began to notice strange things. They didn't strike me as being unusual coincidences, bizarre occurrences in my life. They were ordinary, spurred from ordinary things and ordinary thoughts on another ordinary day. As I got really far in, things were so crazy. My story was so crazy that I did have bizarre thoughts because of my bizarre thoughts, and bizarre reactions because of my bizarre thoughts. If you really thought that there was the apocalypse and zombies were walking around and heaven and hell had split and there were demons on the earth and people were after you and out to get you, you would behave dramatically and irrationally, but it would be rational given the circumstance. Like if you legitimately believed that tomorrow was the apocalypse, this was the last year you're going to live, the world is going to blow up tomorrow, might you do things that are a little out of character? Might you behave in a little different way than you would for any other day if you thought it was the apocalypse? Well, of course you would, but it would be rational given the situation. So even when my behavior and my fear and my thinking and my reactions to things were extreme, I didn't believe them to be untrue. I believed them to be appropriate given the situation that I was in. Regardless how bizarre the situation, I believed my reactions were appropriate given the severity of the situation. But the situation was only in my head. How did I feel? As things got scary, I felt scared. First, I felt excited. I stayed up for days. I wrote and wrote and wrote, and I was putting pieces together, solving a puzzle. It was exciting and thrilling and invigorating, and I felt alive. And then I felt special, chosen, that God was talking to me. And again, you don't have insight after a while, so you lose perspective and you can't tell that you're sick. And so I just felt, if God came and talked to you, you'd feel pretty lucky. I felt pretty lucky. And I felt pretty good. And then as things got worse and I got more and more sick, I felt terrified all the time. I was so scared. I've never been so scared in my life. But again, my scenario was that it was the apocalypse. Heaven, hell, demons, zombies, everything that you can imagine. And so, of course, I felt petrified, terrified, nervous, anxious, scared out of my mind because I was out of my mind. And I wasn't scared because of the psychosis, because I didn't know I was psychotic. I was scared because of the reality that I was living in due to the psychosis was a scary reality to be living in. So I was having feelings like anyone else would have according to the situation that they're in. If you are in a scary situation, somebody mugs you, you're going to be terrified. You're not going to think, I'm psychotic right now. You're going to think, I'm so terrified. I can't believe this is happening to me. I'm afraid I'm going to die. I don't want to die. That's what it was like for me. Near the end, I did some crazy things, several crazy things that I would not have done under my right mind, but I thought they were right given the situation. I was petrified. I didn't sleep because I was too scared to sleep, because I was trying to protect myself. I didn't believe I was sick when I was hospitalized. I took multiple hospitalizations and multiple times of medication to get enough meds in me for me to even begin to consider that I was sick. And eventually, things went back to normal, and my mind went back to normal. And remembering my psychosis is like when you have this epic dream and you try to remember it. And it had its order, it had a plot line. Yes, bizarre things that happened that didn't happen in reality. So goes the psychotic episode. And you reacted accordingly. You were on this epic journey. And you know it, but it's on the tip of your mind, tip of your tongue, and you can't remember it. You might have images. You might sort of be able to vaguely remember how you felt at different parts, but you have big gaps. You're missing big gaps of time, big gaps of what happened to you, big gaps of what you did, big gaps of the plot line of why you did what you did, what was going on. And it's like remembering a dream. But you did that stuff, at least what you can remember, and then other people will remind you of things you did that you didn't even remember. And sometimes you can know why you did what you did because you remember the context of the psychosis and remember why, like remembering in a dream why you did what you did. But other times people tell you did something and you have no idea why you would have done that because you don't remember. And when I've started to get a little bit sick since then, I've recognized that I'm getting sick because I start to fall back into the same plot. It's like waking up from a dream. It's really epic and bizarre and really detailed, and you're reacting in this big adventure, And then you wake up and you're like, oh, wait, life is normal. But then you start to fall back to sleep, and you fall back to sleep into that same dream again. When all the red shirts in a room start to stick out to me and are warning me of danger. When the plot of my life is the same plot that it was when I was sick. Regardless that I don't feel sick, I know I must be, because I have that to look back on. And I am open with the people around me, my doctors, and my support network of people, my friends and my partner, and I let them know what's going on in my head as much as I can. And I know that from past experience that this is illness, not reality, only because I've had that past experience, and my more current episodes have followed the same track as previous episodes. So for me, that's what it's like. That's what it was like. I don't know if this was informative at all for you, but it was something. Love you guys. Have a good day. Goodbye, YouTube.